Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Rottler webinar series. Today we're going to talk about why mosquitoes suck. The first thing we need to probably talk about with mosquitoes is that they're one of the most deadliest organisms on this planet. In 2021, approximately 800,000 deaths were associated to mosquitoes globally. That's a pretty scary number. It's something to definitely pay attention to, and it's definitely one of the health hazard pests that we deal with here at Rottler. With any of the pests you talk about, it's important to understand identification. We're going to talk a little bit here about what an adult mosquito looks like. We've got two different species here in the picture. This guy here is the one that tends to be the most common in our area. And it's one that will bite, all day as well into the evening. It's pretty important that, if you're outside working in your lawn, that you pay attention. There's some examples here of the complete metamorphosis that this insect has. You can see a female laying eggs here in what we call an egg raft. There can be anywhere from 150 to 200 eggs that she lays at a time. In the picture here to the right, there's two different forms of this insect. This is the larval stage of the mosquito. And please note that they're living in water here, which is really important, and we'll talk about that in a minute as well. You've got the pupal stage here as well. Both of these stages, they actually come up from the bottom or wherever they're dwelling in the water up to draw air. So they have these siphon tubes that they use. And it's important to understand that, all bodies of water don't, allow mosquitoes to breed in them. So, when you're looking at water here is their breeding source or what they have to have in order to develop. If you have a stream or a creek in your backyard, it's probably not likely that the mosquitoes are going to breed in that area because the water's choppy. As I mentioned to you before about that little siphon tube, if the water's going up and down, they don't really have the ability to come up and get the air that they need, and in turn, they'll actually drown. So that's something to understand as far as the different types of bodies of waters that are out there. Typically still water, muddy water, those are the stagnant water, those are the areas where the mosquitoes are typically going to lay those eggs. So the life cycle, she basically lays those eggs on the water. They develop into the larval stage. And during that larval stage, there's 4 different stages that they're going to go through. So they're going to feed on different organic matter in that water to develop. They shed their skin as they grow, if you will. And once they go through that 4th cycle, they will then develop into the pupal stage of this insect. We call these the wigglers or the larval stage because when they're in the water, they're literally wiggling back and forth, and that's their locomotion to get themselves up to the top of the water to grab that oxygen that they need. The pupa is called the tumblers, just for a simple name. When you look at them in the water, they're sitting there rolling, and that's kind of how they move around in the water as well. So, but once they complete that pupal stage, they emerge as a biting, breeding, reproducing machine, if you will. It's important to know that they only need about a bottle cap of water to start developing. As you can see in the picture here, you have more than 50 larval stages of mosquitoes here surviving. So that's going to become very important for you to understand that, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Some of the mosquito harborage areas around your home that we want to really pay attention to. Any place that has standing water, the dense vegetation. This time of the year, they're not probably hiding out as much in the shrubs. They're developing and coming out of these water source areas. But when it gets hot and the sun's out there baking things, they're going to move towards those cooler, darker parts of the house. So that could be your shrubs. That could be in the trees. It could be down in the ivy. It could be underneath your deck. So those are some of the areas that we focus on as professionals to control them. But as you as a homeowner, if you can keep like leaf clutter and keep water from standing, like, making sure that your gutters stay clear and they don't have debris in them, which allows that water to flow through. And then, not all gutters are perfectly level, and they shouldn't be. They actually should have a pitch to them, which allows the water to go out. Those are some good things that you should pay attention to around your home. Some other areas of the home that you should think about, if you have, a tire swing for your children, just make sure that tire has a hole so that the water can leak out of it. It's really difficult to get water out of the tires just basically on the way they're made. They tend to hold a lot of water. If you have children's like swimming pools that don't get used often, just don't let that water get stagnant. If you have, a wheelbarrow or flower pots, at the base of your flower pots, or even if you have a low-lying area in the lawn that holds water, those are areas that, these mosquitoes are basically going to develop. So something to pay attention to. Some things, I'm sorry about that. What you can do as a homeowner, we have an acronym called 4Ds. Dump and drain. So if you have bird baths, like I mentioned before, you're going to want to dump those out every 3 to 5 days. The one thing I didn't mention earlier is that when it gets warmer, those mosquitoes can develop from egg to an adult in as little as 5 days. So when our temperatures get up in that 80s, 90 degrees, their reproductive cycle happens really fast. So that's why I say dump it out every 3 to 5 days, and you'll typically stay ahead of that development of those mosquitoes. Some other things you can do as a homeowner is avoid being out from dusk to dawn. Now, we do have a mosquito here that chews on people basically 24 hours a day, but the collection of both species are out from dusk to dawn. That's when they're really out there hunting for their food sources. The other thing you can do is defend yourself by using repellents. You got a picture here with a couple of different types of repellents. The one here, Repel 100, is a product that's made for putting on clothing and clothing only. It's 100% DEET. That's not something you want on your skin. And with any of these products that you're looking at here, just make sure that you're following the directions, applying them appropriately to the areas you need them, and just follow their recommendations for use. One other thing that I like to say about mosquitoes is they are not strong flyers. So if you like enjoying your deck or being out around the pool or working in your outdoor barbecue area, put a fan up. Sometimes just that current of air will literally blow those mosquitoes away from where you're enjoying your outdoor area, your seating or your barbecue area for that fact. That goes as well for flies too. So a fan is a great tool to have outside to help defend you from these mosquitoes. The other thing you can do is dress appropriately. I know it's summertime. We tend to wear shorts and short sleeve shirts, but if you're going to be out at night, you might consider a long sleeve t-shirt, obviously pants, socks, and shoes. If you can keep those insects from getting to your skin, obviously they can't bite you. So, are there any questions that you have out there? And as always, Rottler has a free inspection that we do. We'll come out and survey your lawn and explain some areas that you might want to pay attention to or address. And then we also are running a special right now for a $35 off initial service, but any of our inspectors could come out and make those recommendations for you. Are there any questions, Sarah? Okay. Well, if you have questions, please reach out to us and we can answer those for you after this webinar. And also keep an eye out for our May 25th webinar on ants. We're going to talk about where, why, and how the ants move and some control measures as far as that goes. We also have another webinar in June, avoiding the pain of stinging insects. So we look forward to seeing you there. And we hope that you have a great afternoon, and thank you for attending.